Umar Farouk Abdulmutallab came in a wheelchair. This was his initial appearance before Judge Paul Borman. Usually this would take place at the federal courthouse, but because he is here at the University of Michigan, they wheeled him in a wheelchair into a small conference room where there were only agents, attorneys, the judge, one writer for the Associated Press, and myself. I was sitting very close to him. I could see what kind of injuries were visible when they wheeled him in. He actually had some bandages on his left thumb. There was a bandage around his left thumb, and below that you could see a little burn on his hand. And on the other hand, on his right hand, there was a bandage around his wrist, and there was also a bandage around his thumb and his index finger. The rest of him, he did have on a green hospital gown and a blanket, so there was no way to tell what other kind of burns he may or may not have underneath that. All you could see visibly were the burns to his hands. But he was arraigned, we would normally say arraigned, but in federal court what they talk about is the initial appearance on two different counts: willful attempt to destroy an aircraft and placing a destructive device in or near an aircraft. Those two counts both carry a penalty of 20 years in prison, so he is facing some very steep penalties here when this does proceed through the federal court. I can tell you that when he came in, he said very little, but he did talk to the judge. When the judge asked him questions, he spoke very good English and understood everything that the judge was saying.
Besides that, Peggy, did he have anything else to say? Was he talking before the hearing started?
Well, first of all, when he came in, they wheeled him in right in front of me. If I would have reached out my arm, I would have been touching him. So I was very close to him and got a very good look at him. A couple times our eyes even met, when we were both looking kind of around the room. So I was very close to see what he was. The very first thing that really caught my eye was how young he looked. So we're talking about a 23-year-old from Nigeria, but he does not look like a 23-year-old. He looks like someone, I would say, who's probably 16 or 17. Very clean shaven, very baby faced.
What was
nice
his demeanor
haircut.
like, Peggy? Can we talk about what was his demeanor like?
Sure. I mean, he answered all the questions. He had sort of a smile, I would say a pleasant demeanor for being in a courtroom situation. He did not seem like he was scared at all, maybe a little bit nervous. Before the proceeding even started, one of the federal agents had asked him, "Are you doing better today?" And he said he was. He was doing better than yesterday. And they said, so better than how you felt when we brought you here? And he nodded yes. So he was very pleasant talking to investigators and the judge along the way. A couple times the judge asked him if he understood what was going on, and he said, "Yes, I do."
Now, I understand he is the suspect is the son of a retired bank president from Nigeria. Did that come out at all?
Well, this is something that has been coming out, of course, in the press a lot, is that he comes from a very privileged background, the son of a Nigerian bank executive, an executive who actually contacted the U.S. and said he was very worried about the direction his son was headed, that he may be involved in some sort of terrorist activities. This is also a 23-year-old who lived in a very ritzy area of London in an apartment when he was actually in college, and he was studying to be a mechanical engineer. And I know the agents in London right now are searching that apartment in central London. So we're talking about somebody who grew up with money, who obviously had money, went to a very good college, had a very good education. Yet here in court today, the judge was asking him, "Do you need an attorney, or can you afford to have your own attorney?" And he looked right at the judge and said, "I don't have funds." And so the judge told him that they would appoint an attorney for him, since he says he does not have the money.
So what's the next step?
Well, there's going to be several next steps. First of all, his attorneys say that he may need some skin grafts. So that's an indication. They didn't go into his medical condition, but there obviously are some burns that are going to be needed to take care of here at the University of Michigan. They've set a hearing for Monday because the U.S. attorney would like to try and get a DNA sample from him, and his attorneys don't want that, so they'll have to have a hearing about that and see if that will be allowed. And right now he's going to be detained. The U.S. attorney, Assistant U.S. Attorney, made it very clear he felt like he was a risk to the community. He was a flight risk, and if he was released, he would definitely be deported from the United States. So they are going to detain him until they can have another hearing on that. I think on January 8th is the date. So for now, he will be here with guards at the University of Michigan Hospital.
Peggy Agar, live from the U of M hospital in Ann Arbor, one of only two reporters allowed in for that.